you've shown the general public that you do not tolerate the general public.
No. I'm sorry, I'm being advised that what you're saying is vexatious, and I'd like to ask you to leave the building, please.
Is that contribution was vexatious, scurrilous, improper, and objectionable.
Those of you who watched the part 2 deep dive we did with Lance and Brian from the Peacekeepers regarding the full council fiasco last week, that during that discussion we had some questions that really do need answering by the council. So whilst Gordon wasn't part of our gaggle of locals, we operate in a very considered way, his more gung-ho approach has actually probably done more to highlight the error of thinking within the council than anything we've done in the last 9 months. The way they treated him has really highlighted the inverted relationship that the people have with all levels of government. They think they have authority over us when in reality they do not. In what other walk of life would any of us tell our bosses what they can and can't say and do? We wouldn't. Well, not if we expected to keep our job for any length of time. So who is it that's lurking in the shadows of the council, instructing the officers and the councillors on what to do and say? We want to know, so Lance and Brian went along to the council to find out.
I'm here this evening to ask a few questions with respect to events last Thursday, when a member of the public attempted to communicate what is a clear and present problem, public dissatisfaction with our governance arrangement. A month or so ago at full council, the Mayor stated that council supports free speech.
In fact, this council allows free speech, public speaking, and jolly good that it does.
Why then did the Deputy Mayor eject freedom of expression from the public have your say? At the beginning of that meeting, the Deputy Mayor newly announced that the public may not say things that are scurrilous, vexatious, improper or otherwise. Since when are things that the hearer may find annoying, not to their liking, grounds for silencing? The Council's constitution makes no reference to these restrictions, only that the public must not be violent, abusive or threatening to councillors or officers, or wilfully harm property of the same. So who, and under what authority, was the Deputy Mayor guided to insert these arbitrary rules? And who was it, and what reason did someone advise the Deputy Mayor to deny the gentleman the right to have his say on what are serious concerns that impact us all? Precisely where did all of that come from? I have taken the trouble to listen back to what he stated that evening. Aside from one claim that he made with respect to the billing authority and the consolidation fund, all of his other statements that evening were legislatively correct. Council is a body corporate. The 1972 Local Authority Act asserts that they must be so. And in this respect, Council is no different from Tesco's or indeed any other body corporate. He asserted that Council demanded money. This is equally true legislatively. Council tax is a demand notice, as a bill would require a contract under the Bills of Exchange Act of 1882. Lastly, the Localism Act of 2011 clearly states that Council has power to do anything that individuals generally may do. Consequently, given that I may not demand money with menaces, then neither may Council. The gentleman was correct in his assertion, though he chose to rely upon the 1688 Bill of Rights, which, albeit substantially older, is both a perfectly legitimate and current legislative item upon which he may rely, as did Boris Johnson in 2019 in the Miller-Cherry case, which he also correctly stated. At this point, he had his microphone turned off, and worse still, an unlawful attempt to eject him from the public gallery was made. Fortunately, the police were mindful of their obligation to keep the peace. Now, given the Council's obligation to act with transparency, the public need to know precisely why and under what authority the Deputy Mayor acted, as she did last Thursday, who she received that advice from, and the basis of that advice. The relationship between the people and those who seek to govern has become inverted. Mayor? Abusive even. When the public speak truth to power, it should be listened to and encouraged. How else are we to otherwise correct the problem that exists between us?
I was also present at Thursday's meeting, and to be honest, I couldn't believe what I witnessed. A public office holder told a gentleman having his say he was vexatious, basically annoying, and then shut him down. So my question tonight is, what is the relationship between the council and the public? Exactly what authority does the council or any public office holder have over the members of the public? If you can't answer now, please provide a full, accurate and complete answer in writing to me. That's it.
Brian, Lance, thank you for bringing this to this panel's attention. A number of us in this room were in attendance on Thursday. A number of us in this room probably saw most, if not all, of that incident. It was an unpleasant and unfortunate event to have happened. I think the general feeling was that it was an uncomfortable situation to have the meeting halted and then the police arriving when someone was essentially having their say. I think that's the feeling. Now, where it gets a bit delicate, and this is where I will give you an action point, I promise you, is the mayor is in charge of that meeting. And we have a sad situation where the current mayor is having some health treatment, and so the deputy stepped in. First time meeting. Now, it's not an easy meeting to chair. You've got all 51 councillors there, lots of members of the public, the press, lots of pressure. So what, you know, I can understand how the deputy mayor made the decision that she did, but I would like clarity on it as well. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to write to the chief executive of this authority and ask them to explain to me and to all councillors the rules as we understand them and why they are there and the interpretation of them. And we'll also reference with what the local government association might say in regard to the conduct of local authority meetings in public have your say sessions. So we've got some sort of understanding of what happens around the country, because I want to respect the mayor's authority in that room. Okay, now you probably will tell me that they have no authority and that members of the public can say what they want, and maybe they can, but I will assure you I will get in writing from the chief executive, who will share it with all councillors, and that will also then be useful for members of staff who work here, some of which have been here for a very long time, some of which not so, some of which are here on a casual basis to help with the functioning of the meeting. I think that's a fair thing that I can do. But obviously you're welcome to come back here and to keep having your say on this and any other matter. I personally love it when you come here and have your say. It's great. I might not agree with everything you say, but I agree with quite a lot of what you say. And that's the whole point, isn't it? You should be able to have your say. You can have a quick retort, yep.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think where we really need to understand, because obviously the Constitution is very clear on what the requirements of the public are, and in fairness, we aren't bound by that Constitution, unless I'm very much mistaken. I think the standard rules of the game are respectful. I think everyone knows how we're meant to communicate with one another as adults. Where I'd really like to get drilled down to is that we understand the rules of the game, and I think we do. What happened last Thursday were new rules of the game, and that's something, and it's arbitrary, and I can't condone anything I see arbitrarily being imposed. I have full respect for the position of the deputy mayor. I understood that she's got a serious issue with her hearing, and it was her first time. I believe she was probably advised, and that's where I would like to. That's really what I want to understand: who was doing the advising, on what authority they were doing it, and I think they need to be taking a bit of a backseat to, let's call it a mandated process, as opposed to new rules, because we can't play in a playground where we don't know what the rules are. Thank you.
Thank you, chaps. You've been heard.
Just to give commitment, you know, from an office perspective, we'll absolutely, the chief executive will respond to that, and with the details of the procedure rules that covers the particular advice given to the mayor, because they are really clear.
Karina also went along to the council to voice some of her own vexation.
Okay, you know how this works. You've got 3 minutes. I'll then say something and you can then say something again.
Thank you. I have to be here again tonight because we still haven't received evidence for the lawfulness of the searches that occurred. My understanding is these searches aren't lawful, and despite having been here several times addressing this issue, we haven't had resolution to that. So I would like to have you chase up the actual legislation, the lawfulness, sorry, of the searches entering in a public building. I have mentioned this before, and I know some comeback from the person at the meeting then, was about safety. Again, we don't reject the idea if there's any concerns of safety, but what I did notice last week is a two-tier system. Again, I was reassured that the councillors can be searched to come into meetings because we don't want a two-tier system, and yet what I have seen is that continue to happen where councillors are let into the meeting without being searched, the public are searched, and what they're looking for, as well as weapons and other dangerous things, is demonstration material. So that the fact that that's been mentioned tells me that, you know, communication is part of the problem. I'm not sure why demonstration material is not allowed, but I am struggling to understand why it is taking so long. If there is not just opinion and there is legislation, it shouldn't take 2 or 3 months to respond to that. So that's the first thing. I still believe the search is unlawful. We've not received any evidence, and we would like the evidence on these searches, please. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I'm back again because despite Councillor King's reassurance that he would take a personal interest in a complaint, that lady has not received any communication. This has been in June, and we've been back 3 times to try and check this up. So when it comes to public accountability, what kind of time frame is it seemed reasonable? If there is evidence, provide it. That's really all I've got to say. I'm getting a little bit fed up of just getting the fob off. It has been months and months and months, and I'm really not sure we've had any satisfactory answers.
Thank you, Karina. Okay, on the issue of the searches, I'm going to tuck this into that correspondence formally that I'm going to make to the Chief Executive as well for you. And just for the benefit of the record and clarity, I completely agree. We can't really have a two-tier system, but I'm very happy to be searched by anyone, anytime. And I think that's a comforting thing, a bit like having a CCTV in a taxi. It's good for the driver and it's good for the passenger. So I'm fine with searches on a personal level, but I take your point and you want clarity around the lawfulness of it. I'm looking towards the leader to see if he wants to say anything about the specific complaint or if he wishes to give us an assurance that he'll be able to do something about that.
Hello, Karina. I'm sorry that it's taken so long. Simply put, to come back to you, I did take an interest in it. I did see some correspondence. Something should have come out to you. We'll make sure I follow this up in parallel after this meeting.
And just to your point about your willingness to be searched, that doesn't go for account. You know, if they're unlawful, it shouldn't be happening. There's a lot of people who don't like to be touched, and it is a violation. And what right do councillors or a policy if it's unlawful? So please prioritise answering these questions for us. Thank you very much.
So we thank Councillor Laws for his enthusiasm of our visit, and also he has informed us that he has indeed been good to his word and he has written to those executives to find out exactly what it is they think they are doing. And we also very much appreciate his enthusiasm for being searched. We do actually know 3 SIA security staff, so if it would make him happy, as it is close to Christmas, we could arrange it for him.
But I'm very happy to be searched by anyone, anytime.
Step this way, sir.